Hi, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And my focus, my mission is to spread the word to everybody that with lifestyle as medicine, we can turn back the hands of time, add years to our life, but more importantly, life to those years. A rich, full, enjoyable, vibrant, health-filled life. And anytime I have a chance to share with you, well, any training, and that's what I do most, and recipes and things, but especially from other people who, well, quite frankly, astound me. I'm going to take that opportunity, and I'm doing that with you now. I have a friend, Janet Anspeth, at
And spa.
I know that, Anspach, and I've said it 100 times properly, and then I get tongue-tied. Anspach Rickey, the plant-powered peddler. I've interviewed her a couple of times. She's interviewed me on her channel, and she's just come back from something that I couldn't help myself, and please excuse my swearing, but she's a badass. What she did, and she'll tell you what it is, um, just blew me away. As I said to her, if I had wanted to do that, yeah, and intended to and was determined to, I couldn't have done it. I don't have that stamina. She is 70 years old, 70 years young. She is so fit because of the way she lives her life, but we all could do that. And she did that with an eating style that one of the people I work with at my medical group was so concerned that she not only took on this challenge, and she'll tell you how far she walked, she'll tell you how high she climbed total in terms of this southwest coastal path in the UK that she just came back from. 6 weeks of this and plus some other, but this person said to me, "Oh, I'm so worried about her because she also did it." Well, I'll go ahead and say that as a with a what they call high raw, meaning completely raw diet. And did she come back broken and pounded down? No. As a matter of fact, she's come back so much stronger. She's about to leave for another trip, and I'll let her tell you about that. So, Janet, she's sitting right there. I'm going to kind of go and fade into the side. I'll put her. Well, no, I think I'll keep us together for a while. Because we'll be going back and forth. I'll be asking her questions. But Janet, this is Janet Anspach Rickey, the or
Or
plant-powered peddler. And tell them what you just came back from, and then I'll just ask you questions as I need to. Take it away.
okay. Well, first of all, just to let you know, I have a history of overeating, and I my high weight was 199 and three quarters, and my weight this morning was 112. So, 5 years
How
ago,
tall you are. Tell them how tall.
I'm just short of 5'5". I'm
Okay,
5'4" and three quarters,
so that's
and
tall.
yeah, yeah, I'm little for the first time in my life, and I lost it all over about 15 months, 5 years ago in 2020, and I've maintained it, which is the miracle because I could lose weight in the past, and I did in the past, but keeping it off was major. And I've been active all my life. I'm a retired physical therapist. I love bicycling and hiking and weightlifting, and I used to play soccer. I've always been really active, and I was always overweight because I could never get the weight off because I ate standard American, and I thought I was eating healthy, but it was standard American. It was still meat, it was dairy. um the first 40 pounds came off because I got off all the obviously processed foods like potato chips, but just eating meat and dairy, I continued to have an extra 50 pounds, which I just melted off me when I went whole food plant based. So I just love it, and I love sharing it with everybody. And I do post what I eat on Instagram every day and my activities to show other 70-year-olds that you could stay active and eating healthy. You just got great recovery, great energy, and it's just a wonderful way to live. I have been raw since last September. I've been raw a couple of times and then gone back to cooked, but this time I just am enjoying it so much. I don't want to go back. And so I'll tell you also a little bit about how I'm eating based on the 80-10-10 raw food with Dr. Doug Graham. Anybody who eats raw food knows this guy, Dr. Doug Graham. He's a chiropractor who has been raw for 50 years, and he wanted to know, is raw the best diet for the athlete? Because he's a power lifter. And so he went and talked to the raw people in his day 50 years ago, which he said there were three. And they said they would absolutely recommend raw. And he goes, well, what kind of program would you put them on? They're like, we don't know, because they dealt with sick people. Because that's typically when we'll go whole food, is when we have something, an illness or something where we're sick. And so they said, we've never worked with an athlete. So Doug figured it out. Dr. Graham figured it out, and he came up with this 80% carbs, 10% fat, 10% protein. So we'll go over that. I didn't start that till I got back from this walk. So
May I say
yeah,
something? When Janet and I first began communicating, I had begun my own, uh, well, actually, I'll let her correct me as to the details, but in September of last year, I began a 6 week self-guided uh, uh,
rapid
well,
recovery.
you can say rapid recover, but she corrects us and
True.
says, yeah, she corrects us. Let me get us both on for a minute. And you can't call it rapid recovery unless you are in the program with her. So self-guided Goodbye Lupus program of Dr. Goldner's. I saw great results. All of my numbers, even my SED rate, which I was fighting that had been high for years and years and years, came back to normal, and that is a general marker of inflammation. And so I was delighted, and I thought there's so much more that I can do, that I could do better. And so I wanted to be part of her rapid recovery group. So that was September, did it on my own. When she had a rapid recovery group in March, I joined that. I was so I was so influenced beyond just the the effect of food, because in the rapid recovery group, she, as a board certified psychiatrist as well as an MD, stayed with us every day talking about our mindset and what we're thinking, how we're feeling. And she would actually address things with people. I had a whole thing of early childhood da da da, and we worked on that. She could teach those things, so I got great results there. And then even did a what they call edit. If you've taken the group, you can edit it for half price and still hang around for another 6 weeks. It's a 6 week program, so I've done her a lot. Well, Janet came to me and said, oh, I'm just a couple. She wrote me because I had been posting on YouTube. She wrote me and said, oh, I'm just a couple weeks behind you with this raw thing. She showed her. Now, do you see how beautiful her skin is? She showed a photo of herself, and she had red blotches on her face from some kind of a irritation or something. And she did the program, and her skin got clearer and clearer, and you can see how beautiful it is now. Well, I stopped. I what we call step down. Not quit, just step down from high raw, which was all of what Dr. Goldner's program is, with certain other requirements, certain amount of water, certain amount of omega-3s. And I now have whole food plant-based, which I have been for 7 years, exclusive, but not all raw. Janet never stopped being raw. And so she's going on now, what is it, 10 months. So, okay, take it. I'm going to put you full screen because I want them to see how beautiful your skin looks and to keep their eyes on, oops, that's not, I'm sorry, let me go back to that. And there. Okay, go ahead.
So what I did is I started September 1st with the eating protocol, raw. But I didn't want to do the hyperhydration because I was still bicycling. And to drink that much water would have been really tough to be out there and not necessarily be able to pee. So I waited until October when cycling season was over to do the hyperhydration part. So I was doing the raw eating and her diet, her Goodbye Lupus, Hello Delicious, which was great, her cookbook. So all the meals, and then October I incorporated the 96 ounces of water each day
Okay.
and just continued on. And so I started really actually counting the 6 weeks from the October date
Hmm.
because I wanted both. And I mean, my of course my skin was already starting to heal just from the eating program, and then the hydration helped it even more. So I just kept going with it. But the hydration I only kept up for 6 weeks because I've got so much pee already that it was just I was just going to the bathroom so much, and I there's just it's hard. It's hard for me to keep up with that much.
Okay. So just to summarize, you are still whole food plant-based, not necessarily 96 ounces a day.
Correct, of
Okay.
water.
All right. I heard Thomas Tadlock is Dr. Goldner's husband, explain to somebody in group because anyway, in group, and she said, "My bladder just can't take this. I have issues now because she's in her 70s or 80s and I'm 74. And yeah, my bladder sometimes just says, this isn't working." Um, and he said, if you're doing even 80, you are in good shape. And that 80 ounces, and that helped me feel better about not trying to pile in everything. And we'd still drink smoothies. I still do a the full-on smoothie, which has a lot of water in it, and that water counts. And
Yeah,
that makes it easier. So I want you to then keep going. So here she is, still whole food plant-based, but raw whole food plant-based. And I got to tell you something. People will say you can't stay healthy if you're just raw. Guess what? You know what she just took on? She just took on 6 weeks of something that would have broken, uh, well, anybody who was less fit. And her fitness comes from movement, but it also comes from food. So you want to tell us about that? And if you haven't finished your backstory, go ahead and finish whatever else you want to say of your backstory, and then you can tell us about the Southwest Coastal Path. Go ahead.
yeah. So that's what I'll do next is I'll talk about the hike because I didn't start the 80-10-10 or the 6 week exercise program, which I'm starting today actually. That's through gravity transformation. So that's another thing that's going on that I'm going to do in addition to the 80-10-10 because I talked with Dr. Graham and he recommends at my age to do osteoporosis prevention. And so I love working out and I thought I would love to try this powerlifting. And he feels that powerlifting is really what will build bone strength more than cardio because I do a lot of cardio. In fact, he said even my workout is more cardio related because I do high reps, low weights. And he says, the powerlifting is more higher weight, lower repetition to where you
Yeah.
build power in those bones. So
I've been hearing a lot about that, by the way, and
yeah,
it's even shifting me because I've been very focused on cardio, riding my bike every day and doing, I mean, getting the blood the flow
the
going,
heart
all
beating
of
and
that.
yeah,
And yet
yeah,
I'm hearing from a lot of people, some people, Dr. Goldner even says, prioritize your resistance training, prioritize your resistance training, then get your cardio in. If you're going to go into aging, she doesn't say this, but I will, with power, aging
that's right.
powerfully. So go ahead. And, and,
Okay.
and I'm I want to do gravity transformation. Is this something that you can explain to people we can all do, or is this a very exclusive situation you fell into?
They they want you to join, and they offer a free 6 weeks, which you pay a $200 deposit because they found when they just gave it for free, 100 people would sign up and only 30 would come to the first day even.
Okay.
So when you have to commit to a deposit, then you have to follow through, you know. So I'm learning about it because then you can meet with a coach and they explain it to you even more. And depending on your situation, then of course they want you to sign up. They want to keep you. And they have 6 million subscribers or 6 million people involved in their gyms. They have 3 gyms in New Jersey, and but they have a whole team. Like the gal that called me, the coach that called me, lived in California. So they're all over the country. They've become very successful, and part of the reason is because they offer this 6 week thing. And if you decide to do it and you commit to it, then you agree to doing things like I'll post at Gravity, I'll tag them when I do my Instagram showing what I eat or my workout. And then let's say, okay, if you do 18 of those, so they've got certain things that they want you to do in order to qualify to get your $200 back.
I'll do it.
So
If
yeah,
you
me too.
believe,
I mean, it's
yeah,
just fun for me.
if you
And
benefit from a thing and it takes you into decades more of life. And this is what I've heard everybody tell us, you've got to lift heavy. You've got to, and I like the term osteoporosis prevention because any of us in our 60s and then 70s and 80s, we are getting weaker and more fragile by the moment. So
most of
I,
us have osteopenia, and I got a baseline DEXA scan 5 years ago when I started plant-based.
yeah.
I just had my my follow-up to start this to make sure I was safe. And osteopenia is a little bit more. And Dr. Graham says, we could lose a percent a year.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, here's an example of the workout.
Okay.
This is the first workout, and it's compound movement. So it's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told him I wanted for my, to osteoporosis prevention. But the 6 week is just a general program, and it's exactly what I want. It's dumbbell split squats. So you hold the weight in your hand, and then you do a foot up on a bench,
Yeah.
and you squat down. It's tricep extension with overhead squat. So you're doing an extension and then you're squatting. And so I mean it's compound movements. It's the deadlift. It's the um, oh, it's just great.
So
It's just
what we're going to do is I'm going to put, after we finish what we're doing here, I
yeah,
will on our description have what you need to know. Can I say that to them, Janet? Can
yeah,
I can get from you what they need to know if they want to look into joining this group. Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah. And,
And
and
I'm
what I
going to
can
do it
do is
soon.
every day I'll post somewhere on my Instagram. They're at Gravity Transformation, and I mean, you could probably just put Google Gravity Transformation, and it'll come up.
Okay. All right. All right. So watch for that in the description. If there's anything I can give you that you can just click on there, I'll do it. Otherwise, you heard what she said because I am going to do this. I'm working with a app has fit.
Yeah,
He does
yeah.
multiple movements and I know I'm going to get stronger there, but I want something even more specific. And this I love everything you've said. You've sold me. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen to introduce. Oh, you've got to turn on your screen sharing. We forgot to talk about that one.
There, I think this will do it. Can you get on now?
Let's see. Yep.
Okay,
Let me pull up my PowerPoint. Let me minimize us because we're in the way here.
there.
There we go. And start the slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so I walked 360 miles on the Southwest Coastal Path in Cornwall in the UK. So my girlfriend Sherry and I went, and she was the instigator. She got it all set up, and we booked it through Mickledore. And I can show you a booklet from that when I'm off the share. But Mickledore Walking Holidays is a company that set up the bed and breakfast for us. So we walked from B&B to B&B, and they set up if there was a town that didn't have a B&B for us to stay in, we might stay 2 nights in one town, and then a taxi would take us to where we needed to be. So say we walked from town A to town B, but B didn't have a place, we might be taxied back to town A to spend the night, and then taxied back to town B to start the walk to town C. So they coordinated all that, and it was wonderful. I ended up walking 360 miles. So we walked half the coastal path, which the whole path is 630 miles. So half of it's like 315. But I walked 360 because every night I would walk to a grocery store to get my food because I was raw vegan the whole way. And the B&Bs would give us breakfast, which everybody agreed to serve me fresh fruit. But my lunches and my dinners, I would get on my own. And oftentimes for the breakfast, I would have to supplement because the different hosts' ideas about what they should serve me for a fruit breakfast were highly variable. So I took backup. You just have to learn to plan with people because some of them, they are not vegan, they don't understand, and they would give Sherry and I both the same amount of fruit. And Sherry was regular vegan, where she would eat cooked food. So after her plate of fruit, she would get a tofu scramble, she'd get avocado toast, coffee. They just keep serving her things. She might get porridge and toast, and I'm trying to think if she'd get the tofu scramble too. I mean, they would give her just about anything she wanted. And I'd be sitting there and I'd say, can I have another bowl of fruit or a plate of fruit? And some people would respond, and some of them that would be a fruit bar, and I could have as much as I wanted. But some of them would give me their little plate of fruit, and that was it. They wouldn't give me any more. So I learned to bring a salad to the breakfast with me, and I would have the salad with veggies and fruit, and I made sure I got plenty to eat. I have no problems with that. So I climbed 56,000 feet of elevation. It was a lot of climbing on this hike. Over 32 days of hiking. So we hiked for 32 days. We had 4 rest days, which were we got, so we really were looking for that rest day. And this picture is a picture of the views that I had. And this is a lavender field that just went on for, it was huge. Just the things that we saw were so cool. This was a little ferry, not anything like our Washington State ferries, which of course, if you're not in Washington State, they're ferries that you could drive on, or official ramps to get on. Here, they just pulled the boat up and said, jump in. And so we did. And they were really cute. And they would take us, sometimes there were inlets of water where we had to take a ferry to get to the next land-based area. This is there were many, many gates because we would go through cow fields and sheep fields, and we went all through agriculture. This is my friend Sherry. And so you can see there's a lower step and an upper step, and she's on the upper step. And then you hike over the horizontal board there, and then the 2 steps extend on each side of the gate. Well, this one isn't a gate. It's just it's built to allow us through, but they don't want any animals going through there. So we had to climb a lot of those.
Janet,
They were
how old is Sherry?
She's 74 and
What?
I'm
She's
70.
my age. Good
Yeah,
grief, you guys.
yeah.
And you were carrying all of your gear with you just because
No. No,
No?
we
Tell
would
us about that.
well, I've got the pack right here that I'll show you when I
Okay,
stop
good.
sharing.
Okay.
But yeah, we would carry a day pack, and our big bags were also curried from B and B to B and B.
Okay.
So a separate taxi would pick those up every morning and take them to the next place. And so they would almost always be there when we got there. So this is just again more of the views of just acres and acres of this. This is a rock formation. The tide is out right now, so you can't see the water coming through, but just beautiful rock formations, beautiful cliffs. You can see in this picture the path further ahead there, just the little brown path that it just follows all along the coastal line there. I don't know if my pointer will, can you see my pointer?
Yes, yes.
There's the
So
path.
you're up where you are where you took this photo and you
Yes.
at one point either just came from that or are going to that little path way down
Yeah.
below that
Yeah,
looks
we're
like it
heading for
goes
that.
down the hill. Okay.
Yeah. And
Wow.
oftentimes it goes all the way down to the water level and then all the way back up again. You
Wow.
can't see it going up here, but and this is a cliff. So we would have to actually go inland around this inlet and then come back out and pick up this path. So it was just the most amazing thing. Lots of churches and old buildings. We'd go to into these old Cornwall buildings and villages, and they just were hundreds of years old. We went through Port Isaac, which is the port that Dr. Martin was filmed. Doc Martin. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Doc Martin's a wonderful series that was on Netflix, and so it was really fun to go through his village. Here's some of the foods. Now, this is a fresh fruit plate that I actually had already started eating and I forgot. And then quick took a picture of it. And you can see the variety of fruits that this host served me. And it was very nice. Wish I would have remembered. There's another really nice plate of fruit that I was served. Another pretty one. So some of them were really good at serving me fruit. This is one of mine. So that's a salad inside a grapes container. You buy containers of grapes and there's some of the grapes on there. But I would always buy a container of grapes in the evening. And then I would put the grapes somewhere else. So I had a dish to make a salad in. And I would buy kale and cucumber and cauliflower and broccoli and tomatoes and avocado, and I would mix it. As Nan knows, Dr. Goldner says you have as much avocado as you want. So every night to get some of my calories in, I would have a whole avocado, and I would mix it in with the chopped up tomatoes, and that would be my dressing for my salad along with the fruit. And I would just have a wonderful salad for dinner. And then I made 8 of Lissa Raw Food Romances wraps, everything but the bagel wraps. And I cut them into quarters, and I would have a quarter wrap every day at lunch. And there it is. And I would fill it with the veggies from the salad. And there's also a little patty there that I took with me when I first started the hike. And of course, I went through those pretty fast because they're raw, so you can't keep for long. Um, But the wraps, there were 32 of them. When you take 8 wraps and cut those all into quarters, I had 32 lunches with a half a wrap, which was really fun.
And they traveled the entire 6 weeks without going bad, right?
They went the entire 6 weeks. They're dehydrated, and
Yeah.
I separated each of them with parchment paper, and I would put a stack of them in a gallon size Ziploc that I did not Ziploc, so they'd have plenty of airflow, and they just stayed perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And for lunches, you could see the Ziplocs in the back there. You can see the cauliflower right here. I would always take a bag of cauliflower and a bag of broccoli or a bag of mixed cauliflower. I think this is broccoli in the back here. This looks like something else. I thought that was broccoli, but That I'm not sure what that might just be some greens that I've got for later on that day. I got so I would take backup just to, I actually researched every single B&B where the closest grocery store was. And if I didn't see a grocery store, I would write them. And in fact, I wrote all 25 hosts to clarify about breakfast, getting fruit for breakfast, and if there was a possibility of any greens. But I ended up just bringing greens to every breakfast with me, and I would pack them in my big bag that got curried if I if there wasn't for sure a store where I was going. This is one of my quarter wraps that I would just take salad out of the container and just fill that quarter wrap with greens and fruit, and it was so good. I really enjoyed them.
Now, is that being held by a gloved hand?
Yeah, that's a bicycle glove,
Got it. Okay. All
and
right.
I've got a rain jacket on, so it must have been raining that day.
Okay.
That's
So
my rain.
rain or shine, you walked.
If I wanted to get to my next destination, I mean, I suppose somebody could take a bus because there is a bus that goes along there. Because Sherry ended up with an injury and she had to take the bus, but I wanted to walk, and I love the rain. I live in Seattle. I trained in the rain, so I was ready for rain.
Okay.
In fact, May had only one morning of rain. And this book that I read before I left was a fella who had every single day he had rain except for one. So I took all this rain gear and layers, and I ended up shipping a lot of it home because May was just such a beautiful month, an unusually dry month for Cornwall. So we were really lucky. We had beautiful weather. Here's another example of a salad that I had for dinner. I just loved my salads.
Beautiful.
Here is a salad on top, and below is the tomato and guacamole, tomato and avocado that I would make my own guacamole with. And so it made a pretty good amount of guacamole. That's why I didn't lose any weight on the trip. You can see there's the raw pumpkin seeds and chia and piece of corn. You can get calories on a raw diet, definitely. Well, there's a close up of. Oh, this is one of the gals, Madeline. She insisted on making my meals, and this was a guacamole with pomegranate Oreos in it that she made for me. She was a sweetie pie. She was my favorite host of all the hosts. And here is a grocery haul that I did. I don't know if this will play or not on here. Oh, yeah.
So if you don't eat that entire haul, you're going to put it on your back and carry it, right?
What would happen is, remember I was saying sometimes we'd spend an extra night
Yeah.
somewhere?
Yeah.
Well, some nights we'd even spend 3 nights in the same place because we'd walk to it, we'd
Yeah.
walk from it, and then we'd have a rest day at it. So that food, I ate it all over the 3 days.
Okay. All right. You know what's fascinating about this? I know because when we travel, we always, 7 years whole food plant-based, and when we travel, we're always getting food everywhere we can. It's
Hmm.
really interesting how in some areas, well, for example, we were in French Polynesia, Island of Moorea this year, and it was very hard. I couldn't have filled a basket like you did with greens and cauliflower and broccoli, mainly because it's a tropical island and a lot of those things wouldn't grow there. And they were
Hmm.
very expensive. One cauliflower would be $8 or $9 or something like that. And yet you got a plethora of gorgeous fruits and vegetables, and you found avocados on a seaside path. That's
It was
really
amazing.
interesting.
Yeah. And when I asked the Mickledore, here's the travel arrangements, Mickledore Travel. And I asked them, do you think it'd be possible for me to be raw vegan? And they said, you probably could. She says 5 years ago you probably couldn't, but it's become a lot of people are requesting it. So they're becoming more familiar with it. She says, now some parts of Cornwall, while you may find they're not so familiar with it. But it doesn't matter. As long as I can have a grocery store, I can do grocery stores always have produce. And even the little tiny stores. There was one town that I went into. I had to walk a mile, another mile and a half uphill to get to the little village store. And she even had fresh figs, which I didn't find anywhere else in Cornwall. And she had a head of broccoli, a head of cauliflower. She had greens. She had greens that were picked from a garden, a local garden. And I mean, it was great. I
Wow.
didn't have any problems. Yeah. There was one time where I bought a bag at a gift store, a big one, and I packed my food for the next place because the next place didn't have any store. And it cost me an extra $10 for the courier to lift that bag and take it.
Hmm.
And I didn't have to do it again. I kept the bag the whole trip just in case I might have to do that again. And that was the only time. So that's pretty good for 35 days on the walk.
Yeah. Amazing.
And they were the Mickledore was really good about on our days off having us in a good sized town so I could get what I needed, except for the last one was out where we weren't near anything. And that would be the only thing that I would have said, why did you do that? Because the town that we walked to and then got couriered to this B&B that was out in the middle of nowhere, the town just before that had lots and lots of tourists and places to stay. It must have had at least four different grocery stores. It had a marketplace. I mean, it would have been so much fun to stay there. And what I ended up doing was on my rest day, no, the next day the courier picked us up, took us back to that town, and then we walked to this B&B for the second night. I packed everything that I would need for that second day because the host had gotten me everything I needed for one day, but not for two. And I mean, she had no idea, and she did a great job. She got me everything on my list, but I should have been more clear that because I'm staying there for 2 days, this is what I get for one day.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she actually got me plenty of vegetables for 2 days, but the fruit, she didn't get me enough. So I packed everything, and the fruit, of course, is the heavier of the two. And I carried that the 10 miles
Wow.
to the B&B with me. But it was at the end of the trip. So I was in great shape. So it was fine.
So
It
this didn't wear you down,
no,
weaken you. This actually um, uh, strengthened you day after day,
I got more and more
and
fit.
you were stronger and more resilient at the end.
Yeah.
That's that's really interesting. As I
I
said,
mean, the,
I had somebody worry about you, said to
yeah,
me, "Well, I'm worried about her at that age, da da da, and if she's not breaking down her body," and you were doing exactly the opposite. This is teaching us a lot. So
this,
go ahead. Keep.
yeah.
This is teaching us so much. Go ahead.
And I mean, most of this I've already explained that Mickledore set all this up, the B&Bs. Some of the B&Bs were actual hotels. The luggage courier each day and the taxi ride when staying a second night somewhere or even a third night to get us back to where we needed to start our walk again the next day. So the other thing is when we finished the walk, we weren't done with England yet. And we went back to London and we did a Cotswold tour. So this is one of the Cotswolds towns. This is Bourbon on the Water, and it's a little Venice. And you can see here with the water and the bridges. It's just like Venice in Italy. It's
Hmm.
really cute. This is Lord of the Rings, the author of Lord of the Rings, uh, Tolkien. This church and the door, people say, was the inspiration for Tolkien for his door of uh, Duran. Wait a minute, maybe I've put it in here. I guess I haven't. That's me standing in front of the door. It's just beautiful. Doran, his Door of Doran, I think, that he put in the book.
Do you know Lord of the Rings? Did you read it?
Yeah, I read it and I saw the movies. Loved it. Did you?
No.
Oh, The Hobbit?
And I'm getting more and more and more inspired by you. Thank you.
I would definitely read that. And
Okay.
then I did a bicycle tour, of course. And here we're back in London. That's Buckingham Palace. And this is the entrance to the palace. And that was really fun. Oops. This is back on the Cotswold tour. It's just one of the cows. Isn't he funny looking? Oh, and that's the end. Okay, I'll come out of here. Stopping my share.
So I Googled, no, I didn't Google. I just put this into my Safari. So I guess that's like Googling. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Gold Award Tour Operation of the Year 2024. Because one of my questions was, could you have had a less strenuous trip? And I'm looking at where they take people, which is all over England, Scotland, um, all over England, Ireland, Channel Islands, Wales. Um, okay,
Yes. And
okay,
if we had known to tell them, give us a rest day every third
yeah,
day, they
yeah,
would have tried to make that happen.
okay,
But we walked from Westward Ho to Padstow. They did stages because most people do it in a stage, like Watts Westward Ho to Padstow, and then they go home.
yeah,
So they'll take a week off and they'll do a stage. A
okay,
lot of the locals do that.
okay,
But because we were coming from such a far way away, we wanted to do more of the path in one,
yeah,
and so we didn't know any better. So then we went Padstow to St. Ives, and then St. Ives to Penzance. If you remember Pirates of
yeah,
Penzance,
yeah,
the opera, we went and stayed a night in that town, and then Penzance to Falmouth, and Falmouth to Plymouth.
okay.
So we did 5 stages.
And then you spent that time in London, and
Yes,
you
that was really.
also, because you weren't worn out, you also did a bike thing. Was that days of biking or just 8?
No,
What?
that
It,
was just a tour of London. So we went
I,
and saw Big Ben and the Palace and um, the fellow that conquered Napoleon, Lord, what's his name? I can't remember his name, but he had a statue and it was just really fun. We got on e-bikes. Oh, and Sherry couldn't do it because her feet were still hurting her so terribly. She did the Cotswolds tour though. That was on a bus, a
okay,
shuttle.
okay,
So we took a train. We were pretty good at riding the trains. We took a train from Paddington Station in downtown London to where the tour started, and hopped in the shuttle and took this tour with a real pleasant tour guide. And so he showed us 4 or 5 of the towns, and we'd get out in each town, and I would walk around. Sherry couldn't walk around too much, and saw those couple of sites that I showed you. And it was just a beautiful day. So that was a fun day. And then the next day, I did I got on the train, got on the Piccadilly, which is their tube, their subway, and took that to the stop where I could walk to where the bicycles were, and brand new e-bikes. It was really fun. I
and
I
you
had a good
love your
time.
e-bikes.
I do.
And okay, so how are we doing with time? Tell
Yeah.
me, tell me what you're doing. Well, first of all, if we were live, I know I'd have 100 questions, so I'm going to say to you, put your comments, your questions in the comment section because we got very good the last time we did this at Janet checking the comments, and I'll answer things that are related to me. But if it's a comment or a question to Janet, you'll know she'll see it and you know that she'll get back to you at some point and answer. However, on Friday, she's doing something more. So let me have you wrap up what you were just talking about, and
Hmm.
then tell us where you're headed next as proof that this didn't wear you down. It just wound you up. Go
Yes.
ahead.
But I wanted to show you my day
Okay.
pack. These were very popular on the hike. It's an Osprey backpack,
Okay.
and it comes with a hydration bag. So I would fill this with water. So, a couple liters of water, how much does that weigh? Probably about, I don't know, at least 5 pounds, 8 pounds. I know a gallon of water is 8 pounds.
Okay.
How much is 2 liters a gallon?
Uh, um,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's a half a gallon because isn't a liter similar to a quart plus a
Oh,
couple?
here we go. It's 85 ounces.
Okay. All right.
And then, this hooks to a tube that I would if there's a magnet and it goes right across my pack and I can just grab it while I'm walking and drink.
Nice.
It's a
Okay.
long tube. And
Okay.
you just squeeze this
All right.
and then water
How
will come
heavy
in.
do you think your backpack was?
Well, it would have been, let's see, 85 ounces is how many pounds?
Well, a gallon of water is eight
8 pounds.
pounds, and that's not a gallon. That's
No.
not a gallon. That's about a half a gallon, a little more than a half a gallon. So about 4 pounds.
Okay, so
That
this
pound.
this in itself was 4 pounds. And then
Yeah.
I would have my salad, I would have the bag of broccoli, the bag of cauliflower, my rain jacket. I would usually start out with leggings, and so I'd take a pair of shorts and change into them. Um, I'd
So
have
was the path crowded?
no.
In other words, when you needed to pee, you could drop it and pee.
Mhm.
You
When I wanted to
wanted to
change out of my
change.
leggings and my
Yeah,
shorts,
you're not showing off your buns to
no.
a crowd. Okay.
When we get close to a town, there would be people out just for a stroll after their meal because we'd go by places where, well, in the villages, people there are like people everywhere. They love to sit and have a coffee and people watch and have their lunch. And I didn't ever stop at any of those because it's all junk.
Yeah, yeah.
They love to serve cream teas and espresso and they do this thing pasties, just like Michigan does. So it's a rolled up vegetables and meat in the middle, um,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Scones, which are all buttery and white
Yeah,
bread. Yeah.
yeah. There's tons of bakeries and
Yeah, yeah.
very touristy and beautiful. Just I mean touristy, but not the tiny little towns. So it was so funny because when we came to Plymouth, it was a huge town, and one of my bicycling buddies has moved there to Cornwall area, and they're looking for a house. And they says, "Oh, you have to go to this area in Plymouth. It's old Cornish." And so we made a point to go there, and it wasn't even close to what an actual Cornish village is, and that's all we were staying in the whole trip. They didn't know it was really fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was just a wonderful trip. It's unforgettable. And the only thing is, you're right. As soon as I get home, I start riding my bicycle because I'm going on bicycle tour. I am leading a tour across the North Cascades Highway starting Friday, and it's going to take us. The North Cascades tour is many mountain passes: Washington Pass, Rainy Day Pass, Sherman Pass, Loop Loop Pass, Wakanda Pass. Thank goodness I have a battery. I rode the pass, I rode the route in 1990. How many years ago was that? 40
And
years ago?
that was 40 or 50 pounds heavier, correct? And you
40,
said
50
it was
pounds
out an
heavier.
electric bike.
And it was without an electric bike. It was just with a 27, nine gears in the back bike. And, but much younger, much younger. And we did it. We crossed the country. We did the northern tier, which is going from where we live here in the Northwest Washington to we went to Kennebunkport, Maine. And but right now we are just going to take that North Cascade Highway. I've been wanting to return ever since because it's so beautiful in the eastern part of Washington, up there in the mountains. And we're going to make our way to Spokane. So we'll cross. It's Highway 20. It's just a 2-lane road, and it'll go over all these mountain passes, and then we'll drop down. Spokane's a little bit south in the state, and then I'll meet up with another bicycle person who's going to lead a ride. We call it the Forgotten Corner because Northeast Washington, of course, is not as populated. It's hardly populated at all. So perfect for riding a bicycle. We'll do a big loop, another 10-day loop there. And then actually with the fella who's going to lead it, he's going to give me a ride home. So I'll ride home with him in a car, in his van. He's going to park his van in Spokane.
How long do you ride typically every day on a trip like this?
The mileage is
Miles
varied,
or
but
how many hours?
depending on the mileage, it can be usually from say 8 or 9 in the morning till between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. So
Okay.
it's like a work day.
It's a lot of riding.
Yeah. And these mountain passes, they're, you can only go so fast up a mountain pass. And one of them is over 30 miles of climbing. The nice thing about mountains is you do all your climbing and then you get to mostly downhill, and it's really fun. Which hills can be more tiring because you're going up and quick down, and then you're climbing again, and so you feel the climbing more because it just seems like you're always climbing because the downhills are so fast.
And even
Where
on an electric bike, you can feel that strain.
well, you still get a workout on an e-bike, and especially if it's 30 miles at a slope of 6%, you feel it.
Okay.
Not it's definitely not anywhere near where you don't have a battery. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to get that out of breath, but you're breathing. You can feel your heart rate
Yeah.
increase, but it's such a joy. I just love climbing with a e-bike.
And then the other thing people would worry about, and I would ask that as well, is how safe is this?
I'll let you know. In 1990, there was hardly anybody. So it's going to be interesting because, of course, there's a lot more traffic on the roads. And we've tried to book this trip. This is the third time. The first two, the road's been closed because the fires come in. And we were going to do the trip in August. And so this is why I've got it in July, which is a pretty high, it can be high tourist time because August tends to be fire season up there in the mountains.
Hmm. Okay.
And
But
yeah,
so tr with all this riding you've done now, that's your primary way of, well, holidays, doing
and
holiday
travel.
ride places. And twice now, for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm so terrible with my facts, but I'll say it anyway. Twice now, I believe you've taken a year and traveled across the United States on a bike, correct?
Around the perimeter of the
That's
United
even
States.
more impressive. And
12,000 miles.
wise, you've not been hit. Ruth Heydrich is one of my other heroes. She's now, I believe, in her 90s. She's run 80, 70, whatever, um,
Marathons.
marathon. She's
Yeah.
a
And
she's
she wins them.
ultra marathons, yeah, and she wins them. And she's been hit twice on her bike, and she won't cycle anymore. And
Yeah.
I go out cycling on a regular basis, at least 5 times a week. And I've said to my husband, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And that's not, and I've heard that from people. And it's not necessarily true, is it?
You know, wear very colorful clothes. We have lights on our helmets, lights on our bikes. We don't cycle at night. Most cyclists are hit at night. They don't have bright clothing on. They've got dark things on, and they've no business being out there without lights on.
Okay. All right.
And you just really have to follow. Like I just took a cycle safety course. I just took a 3-day, 3 hours, 4 hours an afternoon, and we practiced different group riding and single riding and negotiating different things like left turns and lane changes. And another thing, you have to you have to control the lane. And so when you're a bicycle and you're in traffic and you don't have to shoulder, you don't have a shoulder, you have every right to take up a lane. If it's a if there's enough width. If there's no if it's a high speed road and you don't have a shoulder, you shouldn't be on the thing, you know. But there's riding in urban, there's riding in rural, and I mean there's an art to it. And so we have had cyclists that have been hit, um, but it's rare. It's rare, and our club's been going for 30 years.
Okay.
So
See, you are
yeah,
putting to bed a lot of the fear or the conclusions people come to talk themselves out of doing a thing. It's going to
and
wear you
people,
out. It's going to break you. You're getting too old.
yes,
You're raw
limiting
vegan,
beliefs.
so you've got, all those strikes against you, et
Yeah,
cetera, et cetera. None of that has come to pass. As a matter of fact, it has been the opposite. So,
drivers are so kind
no,
here in this area. Drivers are so kind. It'll be you go. No, you go. No, you go. No, 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 that's okay. You go. It's like, no, 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 you're bigger, you're faster. You go ahead and go. It's that kind of thing.
okay.
So,
All
I
right.
mean, yesterday we were practicing going double on a windy road because we do not want cars trying to pass us in our lane. They're welcome to pass around us. We're a slow moving vehicle. And so you have to treat us like a slow moving car or, something in front of you. And then as soon as we would find a pull off, the whole group of us would pull off and we'd wave, thank you. And they'd wave back.
Okay.
That's what drivers are like in Washington. Not everyone. There was one person who laid on his horn, where they just lay on it. And actually we were already moving off onto a sidewalk, but 99.9% of all 3 afternoons, 3 and 4 hours each afternoon, the cars were absolutely there. They they don't mind. Now, if you're in Boston, maybe it might be different. Or I'll tell you, Steve and I rode through New York City when we were doing the perimeter ride. We were right in New York City, and there were lots of bicycles, and people were used to us, and they were fine.
Okay.
So
All right.
Colorado, somebody was saying they're cranky, but I lived in Boulder for 18 months, and I thought the drivers were great in Colorado. So how much of it has to do with, you're right, what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your expectations. Okay, so on Friday you leave and you're not home again until the end of July because I understand that as soon as you get back from your 25 or your July 25th, on July 25th, when you get back from this Seattle to Spokane trip, you're going to be taking off again for that cycle trip, or is that extra cycle trip that 10 days that that other fellow is going to be taking you on?
No, that we'll have already done the extra 10 days. And then this next one is because, we're a club and we have several people that will post tours. And then I want to do all of them. So the next one is, we call it the Pacific Beach Camp Out. And a couple of the guys are military. And so there's this camping area right on the ocean that they can reserve for the group of us. And so they reserve it each year. And then we go and set our tent up, and we all just cycle from there every day. Or we might load the bikes up and cycle, drive to somewhere and then do a loop. But it'll vary. So it just, whatever the guys come up with, we'll ride each week, but camp there every night
You
at
know
the
what, Janet? You're living like a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old. You're living like that person who is still just drinking in life as quickly as they can, and you don't see an end to this. I can see, hear, and I anticipate that you will be doing this in your 80s and your 90s, won't you?
what we're starting to talk about is, first of all, we went from regular bikes to the electric bikes, and that's really extended our life with this. The next thing will be instead of the fully self-contained, so the trip to Spokane is fully contained. In other words, we carry all our whatever we need with us. There's no vehicle that is joining us to support us on this ride.
And I didn't ask, where will you be sleeping between Seattle and Spokane?
Hotels, they're all booked.
Okay.
Yeah. So no longer do we camp on a fully contained tour. So each
Okay.
night we get a shower, we get a bed, we get a
Right.
roof.
Okay.
Um, as opposed to the camp out at the end of the month, we're actually going to be camping in tents there. Although people can get a cottage there or nearby at a hotel, but
Okay.
some of us go ahead and we do the tent. And I'll stay raw. So,
And
the nice
what
thing,
about Steve? Is Steve fully raw?
Steve is still, he went raw, but now he's eating a little bit of cooked because he's leaving for India on Wednesday.
Okay.
He's going to go to Goa, India, and be on a retreat. And they're vegan and vegetarian, but they're not raw. And
Yeah.
so he was a little concerned about, what am I going to do? And I
Mm.
said, it's just temporary. Just
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And
I've
so
been to Goa and he will enjoy having
it's
a little bit of food freedom.
yeah,
The
yeah,
food is
yeah,
remarkable. It's somewhat tropical there.
yes.
Mm.
It's monsoons right now.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So he isn't going he's not doing the Spokane tour with me, but he has been riding with me. Um, you know, he's 8 years older than I am. So he'll get this notion into his head. And for a while he had it that he was now, not going to ride anymore. And I go, okay, okay. And he actually all last year he didn't ride. Well, now this year he's back on the bicycle and he's riding all the rides. And even he came down and met me after class and rode home with me. And we're just having so much fun. So he might do then another tour in August that I'm going to do. I lead a tour in August, and we climb up to Paradise, Mount Rainier, um, Paradise Lodge, and then the next day we go to Mount St. Helens and we ride up the Windy Ridge as far as we can go. They're out and back, so people don't have to go the whole way, but I do. And then I take people in Southern Washington because there's some really pretty riding down there and it's quiet.
Hmm.
So we'll do that. So there's a week of riding there, and it's hub and spoke where we'll stay in a hotel, we'll ride, then we'll pack up the bikes, and we'll drive to the next place, and then I've got another loop. So we call it a hub and spoke. So we stay in a central place and ride out from there. Although I'm moving the hub every day because I want to show them different areas of Southern Washington. And then in September, I'm also doing the Alaska cruise, the holistic holiday at sea.
Mhm.
So I'm doing that from August 31st to September 7th. So I'm going to miss the party for Dr. McDougall. And then
And I'll be there, by the way. If anybody
oh,
is going to be at the plant-powered party in Las Vegas, I will be there.
I'm going to miss you.
Oh,
And then later on in September, we're going to do a Port Angeles tour. We were going to go up to uh, Vancouver, up to Victoria, but Canada has just gotten so expensive. It was like $300 a night to stay there. And so we decided, okay, instead of getting the Blackwell ferry over to Victoria, we'll just stay in Port Angeles and we'll ride up Hurricane Ridge. And he's got the fellow that's putting it on has several rides for us. And then one more week in October, it's getting cold and wet here on the west side. And so we drive over to Ellensburg, which is east of the mountains, where it's still nice and warm and sunny. Cold in the morning, but we just have to bundle up. And then within a couple of hours, it gets warm. And we'll hub and spoke tour for a week in Ellensburg. And then that'll be it for the winter.
and
So
you're
you get
going
to
to be, I interrupted. What were you going to
you
say?
get to ride all winter long, which is I just so that's I want to come down and join you and ride with you in the winter.
Well, but my rides are so wimpy compared to yours. I consider myself strong because I can go up some grades that used to thwart me. And they're nothing like what you're talking about. I mean, an eighth of a mile of a little bit of a hill to get me back onto level ground. It's like nothing. I'm still pleased with that. And yet, same
Definitely.
token, you are in a different league. And I hope that you have inspired others the way you have me to aim as we get older to get stronger, to age so powerfully that, well, I'm 74. When I'm 76 or 78, I'm doing things I can't do now. That's what I want to do because you've shown what's possible by taxing ourselves rather than babying ourselves. It makes sense to push ourselves a bit and know that we can do it without an attitude of, oh, this is killing me. Instead, oh, this is empowering me. I see that all over you. It's very inspiring.
Well, and that's what's got me interested in this 80-10-10 and this gravity transformation because um, Dr. Graham says you can reverse osteopenia, you can reverse osteoporosis. So I want to see, can I do this powerlifting and can I get my bone health going the other way, instead of slowly going less dense to get more dense.
Well, and I know that you have a event on your channel that you are going to be talking about this. Is he going to be talking to the group or are you explaining to the group what he's doing this Monday
Monday.
or your channel?
Oh, on yeah, I do a Monday Zoom, and yeah, I just
You're
talk about
just
it. I
talking
show
about what he's
recipes.
doing. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did in his book 80-10-10, which just about anybody who eats raw has heard of him. And I actually bought the book a while ago, and then Jennifer, who's another plant-based eater that you and I know, she got it because we both have been interviewing with Chris Kendall when we do the bundles, and he's another 80-10-10 raw food vegan. And so she got it and started reading it. And I said, "Oh, great, let's read it together." So we were each reading a chapter and talking about it. And so that got me to read it. And then I got all excited about it. I actually started it before I left on the coastal path and got the ebook. And so while I was in the airport and on the flight, long flight to get to England, I read it and I got all excited about it. So as soon as I got home, he has a spring sample menu, summer sample menu, fall and winter, because he says when you can eat what's in season, you'll get the most nutrition. And so he has an actual seasonal guide, to here's the kind of things you can eat in June, that kind of a thing. So I did his spring and his summer menu when I got home. And now Chris Kendall in one of the bundles, he has a 21-day menu. And I wrote him and I said, is this based on 80-10-10? He said, absolutely. So now I'm doing his spring menu. So I'll show on this Monday Zoom, I'll show a recipe from his 21-day menu. And the not last week, because I had my potluck on Monday, but the Monday before, I was showing one of Dr. Graham's. And I just talk about them if people have questions. Everybody else on my Zoom isn't necessarily raw. Some of them are. And so we can compare notes. But, on my Zoom, I like to just talk about whatever people want to talk about because
I
what's
just
that?
want to show people I brought it.
Oh,
This is
there.
his book, 80-10-10,
Mm-hmm.
Balancing Your Health, Your Weight, and Your Life, One Luscious Bite at a Time. That's Amazon. I just bought it. And not because I want to go raw. And yet you never know. But the more I go raw, actually I was my healthiest. My numbers were the best when I was 100% raw on Dr. Goldner's protocol. When I went, and I'm admitting this, when I did step down and began adding cooked grains, legumes, I wasn't adding any sugared things. In other words, I wasn't doing what some people do. I'm whole food plant-based and they eat massive amounts of dessert with date paste and all of this very calorically dense stuff. I didn't change that. My numbers went up a little. And so I am. aware of that, and I'm willing to look further into it. So I'll be getting the book on Monday.
That's another thing. You and I both did the glucose monitoring.
Yeah, I just finished my third 2 week. Here they are, as a matter of fact.
Ah,
They rested
yes.
right there. I just took off this last one 2 days ago. So I did
Uh,
three 2 week sections. And yeah, it's really interesting what can raise blood sugar that is healthy, whole food, plant-based. Anyway, go ahead.
and well, you would
And what
think
did you
because,
find? And we're going to need to wrap it up, but what did
yeah,
you find from what were your conclusions? Because you remained raw, so you weren't doing grains and legumes. What were your conclusions, um, having done a continuous glucose monitor?
I was over 90% in my target range,
Yeah,
70 to 140. And I ate a lot of fruit,
yeah,
just fruit for first two meals. And then the third meal, he does a three-course thing. And usually the first part is fruit. He starts with fruit because it's so easily digestible. So of course, it's gonna increase your glucose. I mean, that's all you're eating is glucose. But it comes just right back down again.
yeah.
Over and over again.
Okay.
It would go up, right back down. And so I mean, I did it for 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay. Now Stephen would do it, and his would spike way up, like over 200, and mine it would spike up. Maybe it would go past 140, maybe as far as 150,
Yeah, yeah,
and that was about it. I mean, I it just was it just if you want to prove to yourself that fruit's okay, just try it.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
found that well, this is a different subject. I'm not going to take the time, but I will say that there's a belief, and I am a starchivore. I do eat
yeah.
70% of my food is starches, and then seeds and nuts and grains and legumes. That there is, if one is watching for really high spikes not to happen, that there is such a thing as overdoing it. Beans and then grains and then more grain things like tortillas. I could bring it up to my highest was 167, and it comes down quickly. But I
Mhm.
didn't like those high spikes, and I tried to modify that, and I learned how. But that's another subject. Okay,
Yeah, I listened to all your
go
your
ahead.
YouTubes, and you inspire me. So it's like, man, I told Steven, Nan got a glucose monitor. We should do that. And so he got it right away and had his already done before I got home. He was really interested too. And so we learn a lot from you.
Well, I
But
learned a lot from that, and I asked Dr. Goldner about it, and she said, and she does not want us to take our eye off the prize. In other
yeah,
words, she won't even entertain questions about, well, what about this? What about that? She'll say, I haven't tested it. I would say, don't. And so when I asked her about the glucose monitor, she said, your best indicator is an HA1C. Well, my HA1C is in the low 50s, so I'm fine. But I wanted to play with this. I wanted to prevent spikes because when it's spiked, you've got a lot of sugar in your blood that's just interfering with oxygenation and things like that, and that's not an ideal place to be. And so I did learn to play. And I'll do another video on it actually, now that I've done it 3 times and I've done a lot of playing.
mhm.
So
It's
anyway,
interesting. I
it
really
is.
enjoy your I mean, that's what's fun to experiment is you
Yeah.
find out all this neat stuff, and
Yeah.
it's so fun to share it.
Okay. Do you want to end with anything you want to tell our friends?
I just hope that people will just experiment because you just never know. I never thought I'd go raw. I never thought I'd do 80-10-10 because I'm such a starchivore. And I with Goldner, it's greens. It's mostly greens for breakfast. And this fruit is both Stephen and I are just amazed that we can eat so much fruit. And it's just being willing, being open-minded and being willing to test it out and to realize people don't know all the answers. And even like the glucose, it's such a new thing. They may say, it's bad to have spikes, but we don't really know. And
Oh,
so,
like I'm listening to a Dr. Krantz who is a specialist in diabetes and a PhD. And he said exactly that. He said, yes, you may, because it's become very popular to avoid spikes, and some are saying your spikes should never be higher than 30 milligrams per deciliter above a certain base. And he's saying that we haven't shown that to be true. Studies of healthy young adults, physically fit young adults, have shown that it's natural to have all kinds of variation. See, you know what? We could go on forever. We could tease people with all this stuff they want to ask more about. We're gonna have to maybe not, but we've got lots of things we're going to talk about when Janet comes back and she's available to talk more with us after all of these adventures. In August, I'll have her back and we'll talk more. I'll go ahead and do another something on my continuous glucose monitor and the things that I've learned and that my own conclusions, though I'm a N of one, and about aging with power. And you are to the T. Again, I'll say it. You are a badass. What would you like to say to people some of these people who are listening are in 30s and 40s, but what would you like to say about living your life with the kind of vigor you do?
try it, do something, plan something, go for it.
Love that. Love that. Look for it and find it and go for it. Okay, Janet, I'm going to hold on because I'll say goodbye to you, but I'm going to end our video. I am the author of Aging Powerfully, wrote it 4 years ago with the lifestyle pillars that turned my health around when I began 7 years ago, and a bit of a memoir that tells that I've been around the block a bit in terms of challenges, and it's an interesting read. So consider that. Please subscribe. That way, the algorithm will put us out there where people can find us. And have a great day because I know I'm going to. Bye
Me
bye.
too.